Welcome back to Learn Energy Healing. Today I'm going to be talking about a few things that I forgot to talk about in the previous video, so still a bit of an extension to some of the explanation of the pretend technique in the video before last. I'm also going to be talking a little bit about some questions I had on the previous video too. Essentially, this video is mainly about why it's not a good idea to ignore someone's reality. Even if you can see a higher reality and can see that it can be better for them, why ignoring what they are currently going through can be not a good idea. So let's start with some of the questions I had from the previous video. So one question was, well, how can someone who's never heard of witchcraft in their life, never really thought about it, never really believed it can affect them, how can it still affect them? Essentially, they do believe that it can affect them on some level. So in the mainstream sort of way of saying things, we have a conscious mind, a subconscious mind, and an unconscious mind. So conscious mind is the stuff we're readily aware of, we know about, that we think about and we believe. The subconscious is something we're not quite aware of yet. We're on the cusp of sort of seeing something. Maybe we ignore it. Maybe we don't fully acknowledge it, but there's some awareness of a belief. And then the unconscious is everything we don't really know about ourselves. Very simple way of looking at things. But the sub and the unconscious is vast compared to the conscious. So in other words, all the things that we know about ourselves is very small compared to all the things we don't know about ourselves. Lots and lots that we've forgotten about ourselves, that we don't know about ourselves because of this veil of forgetfulness we have on this planet. So essentially, what is in our subconscious and unconscious are beliefs we don't necessarily know about. Beliefs that are passed down from our ancestors of our physical bodies. So, we take on a physical body when we come to this reality. And that physical body, is an amalgamation of lots of different beliefs that your parents and their parents and their parents had over many lifetimes, stored in what we call cellular memory. The physical representation of cellular memory being genetic material, DNA. But of course, there's more than just the physical DNA. There's, the energetic DNA where the blueprint is truly stored. So yeah, you have a set of beliefs from that line of ancestry. And also you have beliefs from your soul's point of view as well. So your soul is simply the identity you take with you from lifetime to lifetime. So even though you may not have been in this particular family necessarily before, you take on some of the beliefs because you've taken on the physical body of this reality that has that history, but you also take on the beliefs, the energetic imprints, if you like, the cellular memory, if you want to call it that, from your other lives as a soul on other planets, in other families, whatever it may be. And because we're in a low density vibrational reality, we can't have access to high vibrational states, to remember things, to know what we believe on all levels. As you become more aware, you become more aware of what was previously in the subconscious and the unconscious. That's part of the awakening process. You become more aware of things, you see more. And so what was previously subconscious and unconscious, you become aware of it. And therefore you understand more, you see more, and you see more perspectives. So for someone who is the subject of witchcraft or black magic or demon possession, whatever it may be, from their point of view, it may well be that they've never come across it before, never experienced it before, but it's there in their subconscious or their unconscious. that belief, that energy. And if you hold on to a particular belief, essentially on an energetic level, you are holding on to a certain frequency, a certain vibration, if you like, of energy, and therefore you attract more of that to you. Or another way of putting it is that life reflects that back to you, whichever way you prefer to look at it. And the other question that was very pertinent was, well, what about consent? What about choice? And this again ties into your overall vibration. So, everything you are experiencing is a choice you've made at one point or another. Hard as it may seem, as uncomfortable as it may seem, it's the truth from the highest perspective. From a human perspective, because you've forgotten about what your soul chose to be part of this life, it may seem like it's unfair and that you didn't choose this and you wouldn't have wanted to choose this because you've forgotten that side of you. That's in the subconscious, that's in the unconscious. So it may seem like things are going against your choice. So again, as you become more aware of what you hold on to, belief-wise, energetic-wise, cellular memory-wise, whatever you would like to look at it, you start to become aware, okay, a higher part of me chose that. What you might call destiny. So destiny is just a higher part of yourself, a higher self, a higher vibrational version of you that chose that. So from our point of view, from a lower self, I suppose you could call ourselves, because we don't have access to that memory of the higher self necessarily, it may seem like destiny, like a road that's been chosen for you. But of course, you still have choice in this reality. And if you are not aware yet of those higher choices that have been made, it may seem like things are going against your choice. So quite often we choose to come to this planet, which, from a certain perspective is one of the hardest places to incarnate into, to have a challenge, to grow and learn, or simply just experience a harsh life, or to experience helping people come out of this. You can make up your own mind with what your purpose is here, but essentially there was a choice to come here. And it may well include choices of experiencing dark magic, demons, implants, all the different things that make you feel like a victim, make you feel like you have no power in order to experience powerlessness. Again, that's a long topic going into why you might have chosen that, but again, on some level you will have. And, with the law of attraction, it takes time, because things change so slowly in this reality on purpose. And again, we chose to come here to this very slow changing reality to experience the difficulties of manifesting and creating in such a slow changing place, so that we can better manifest. It's quite nice if I think of an elephant in my head. It's quite nice knowing that an elephant doesn't suddenly appear in my room and all the damage it can make, So from one perspective, things being manifest quite slowly is quite a good thing. And it's a difficult thing, of course. If you are poor, for example, then you would like more abundance. It can be quite difficult to steer your thoughts into abundance and getting your actions, what you do to become rich, to match your thoughts and your vibration. It may seem hard to do that, and it may take a lot of time and effort. But that's part of the challenge of this reality. So it may seem like you don't have choice, but you do. And there's already a choice having been made, of course. Let's try and remember the other questions. Yeah, so I think that's answered a lot of the questions that came from that one person. And by the way, these sorts of questions are really good questions to ask if you want to awaken more. Um, Questions help you expand. Curiosity helps you expand. The minute you try to come to definite answers and hold on to that answer for dear life rather than, opening up and um, considering other possibilities, you stunt yourself, you stop yourself from growing. Um, so part of the awakening process, especially if you want to be more multidimensional, is to uh, become aware of how different perspectives can all be true, even if they seemingly contradict each other. So if you are getting a bit confused from a lot of the things I've said in this video and previous videos of how one person's perspective can be true from their point of view and from your perspective it's wrong and your perspective is true, but both can be true. Good. It's good to be a bit confused. So understanding how both those perspectives can be true and also both false, neither of them are inherently real, um, can help you really have a more multi-dimensional mind. It can help you understand the bigger picture, which is something that comes along with the territory of awakening more. You see from a broader and broader point of view. So it's very, very good to ask questions. And, don't shy away from some answers. Don't think that you have to keep being curious, because some answers you may come to are useful for the time being. Some tools, some ideas, some belief frameworks, some healing frameworks can be very useful for the time being until you start to question more and expand more, and then maybe some other techniques, some other beliefs may be more useful. Okay, so question even what I say. Yes, please do. So let's get on to the main topic, which is why it's dangerous to not acknowledge a client's point of view, and why it's also dangerous to get them to try and ignore what's going on. So if you don't acknowledge a client's point of view, say they are coming to you and they are talking about demon possessions, astral parasites attached to them, maybe they're being bothered by some sort of entity and they're having a tough time, they're feeling very stressed, not enjoying themselves. If you say to them, hey, those entities, those demons, those parasites aren't real, just ignore them. That's just like you digging a hole in the ground, putting your head into it, whilst there's hungry wolves running around you. They're just going to eat you. Because if you tell them to ignore those entities and those beings, and they still very much hold onto the belief, consciously or not, that they are dangerous and bad and that they can harm them, guess what? They're going to experience being harmed by them. So, it's not a good idea not acknowledging these sorts of things, ignoring them, and especially not having your client ignore them when they're not ready. So very often it's far better to acknowledge them, tune into their reality, help them within that reality so that they can feel more comfortable, feel safe, which could be removing an astral parasite from their aura. It could be using contract cancellations to cancel a contract with an entity that's bothering them. It could be dissolving a demon in light. And once they get the sense of that issue being resolved and they feel calm and they feel safer, then it might be more useful to use some of the techniques I mentioned before, questioning, to help them understand, well, did it really harm you? And to start using meditation techniques where they can imagine a demon and face it and notice the fears coming up with them and whether it really does harm them or not, so that they can start to learn that actually it's not as bad as I made it out to be before. That they're only really as much of a problem as I make out. Yes, and likewise, if you ignore those entities and try and make it out to just be an energy, then maybe they don't feel heard. Maybe they won't feel that they're being met halfway, and that they don't feel that the problem is being resolved. And again, because they still believe in these parasites or entities being able to harm them, then they will continue to be harmed. So we have to be careful as healers. We've got to acknowledge that they are real, at least for them, and it can be very uncomfortable for them and very harmful for them, very stressful for them. They can develop physical conditions, physical issues that can develop because of these energetic problems that they have, because everything's reciprocally related. So we've got to meet them at some point. And like I said in the last video, it can be very difficult to know what level are they at, what level of awareness are they at. Are they quite easy to get their viewpoint changed? Are they in a condition where they can start to test their beliefs and see whether their beliefs are really true or not? And so it can be difficult. So hopefully that's cleared up some questions. Hopefully that's helped you see that there's not one truth. There's, always higher truths. There's always more truth compared to what I know. I'm sure I'm always surprising myself and growing and learning as I question more. There's always more to understand. So yeah, please do question what I say too. And always remember that ultimately you're okay, no matter what happens. And I will remind you, for those who have been following my videos, that problems are only as much of a problem as you make them out to be. We've got to start looking in that direction as healers, so that we can bring more people in that direction with us when they are ready, of course. Because I don't really want to teach healers to make implants, parasites, demons, witchcraft, black magic, etc., more of a problem than it already is. I would rather us go more in a positive direction, more in a growth direction, more of an expansive direction, rather than holding on to these fears that the New Age community especially seems to hold on to and make worse and worse and worse. Okay, I hope that's been useful. Leave any questions down below or email me, of course, like many people do, and I will see you in the next video.